Welcome to Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to episode 7 of the Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, and today we'll be talking all about how budgeting is more than your expenses. It's a pathway to freedom in your life. If you've thought budgeting was only about your bills, get ready to shift your perspective and make budgeting enjoyable. Let's flip the script on budgeting. Before we get into today's episode, if you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm excited to talk about this one today because I think we get so limited when it comes to budgeting. It does not have to be boring or restrictive or like something we run away from. And truly, maybe you're avoiding budgeting because it's a reminder of the spending habits you've been talking about changing forever. Yep, I said it. And, also maybe it's hard to stick to budgeting because right now it's just a list of your bills. And who wants to spend all their time focusing on bills? Okay. Like it's one of those worst things about adulting. Nobody wants to focus on that all of the time. And when we are focusing on those things, that's how we start to really create this relationship with money where it's something that we do not look forward to. And so the great part about expanding our vision and our definition of what a budget is and what it can do for us is that it's going to give you more freedom. So budgeting becomes easier when it's aligned with your goals and values. And remember in episode 3 when we talked about the why behind your financial goals? Well, when you add categories to your budget that align with those goals, you'll be more motivated to stick with your budget to achieve them. And so like what that looks like is that you're adding, the vacation that you plan to take in 2 years into your budget, and you have like a specific, savings amount that you're putting towards that each month. Or maybe it is for the house expenses, whether you're renovating a space within your house or you are saving to purchase a house. And so when you have that listed as one of your categories in your budget, it makes it more exciting. It's like, oh, okay, like all of it is building up. It's all coming together. And then as well as things like, your car or self-care, that's like a big one. So you can definitely have space and room in your budget to specifically allocate to self-care, like massages, like get your nails done. I know that is something that I love to do. That can give you the peace of mind and also something to look forward to when you're opening up your accounts, when you're opening up your budget to take a look at your finances. When we're just putting our bills in there, it's just saying, okay, this is all the money that's coming out, right? So maybe you do have your income on there. Those are the two components, right? You want your income and the expenses. But I want you to start treating your goals like they are an expense, but they're not like an expense that we feel like yucky about. It's an expense that we are excited to pay. And in general, when we approach our bills and things that we get to pay as, oh, wow, like I have the privilege of being able to pay these things because I have the money available to be able to pay these things, like when we start to shift the way that we are approaching even paying and handling our bills, that can also just open up our capacity to receive more. Because it is, it's something I'm grateful for. Like, I'm sure we have all prayed for, thought about, intended on, some of the things that we have today that we're excited to pay for. I love paying my mortgage. Okay. So I'm very excited to pay it because the house and the home ownership goal is something that I wanted for my entire life. So yes, is it a bill? Yeah. And it's also something that is an investment towards something that I have truly worked for and wanted. And so when I think about it in that way, it's less of a strain, less of like a meh sort of feeling. It more of like I'm empowered to be able to do this. I'm grateful to have the finances available to be able to pay for this. It could even be something like the car that you're driving, or it could be, a class that you're taking. And even in your business, I think this part is so important, right? We can get very caught up on the overhead and different costs that are associated inside of our business. And yet there's probably a time where you wish that you could have paid for an elevated software for your company, right? Or you wish that you had the money available to have multiple people on payroll. And now that you have that, we get to be excited about it. We get to look forward to having good feelings as that money is coming out of our account. And so it's more than just our bills, this budget. It is something that can really be a roadmap to your goals. And something that I've even experienced is like what inspired me to stick with my budget is that I started to see the savings grow. It was so exciting. When I first started being really intentional about putting money away each time I was paid, I was like, oh my gosh, I can see the growth. Like now I have, $100 more than I used to have. Now I have $2,000 more than I used to have. It just allowed me to see that like, okay, this is worth it. Having that discipline around the budget and doing the steps to organize my money in a way that supports me is all worth it. And it made me look forward to opening it up and seeing how far I've come. And, it started with savings, right? And now it's really like the investing balances for me that brings me peace of mind. I'm able to see how that is increasing and, how, especially like on the more passive side, right? When you get into like your stocks investing and stuff like that, especially if you're more of like a buy and hold investor. So you're buying the shares, you're leaving them there and allowing them to grow and compound and all that good stuff. It is essentially passive. So you are watching it grow, and that is very exciting. And so that keeps me motivated to continue to take a look at my budget and organize things and, adjust it for the goals that I am looking forward to. I also have a client who, kind of went through like a similar situation. And when we started working together, she was convinced that she just needed to like improve her budgeting skills and everything would work out. And the funny thing, right, is that she was doing such a good job, but it was just a list of bills. All she had on there were like her expenses of what she was, paying and who she was paying it to every single month. And while that is, okay, I was like, let's start to add your income in there. So, and not just like when we also think about adding our income into our budget, it doesn't have to just be from your job or your business. It can also be, income that you're receiving. If you have side hustles, if you have, like other sources, dividends, all those things, like incorporate that income into your budget as well to get a full picture. Like we added our rental income into there. That's another source that's coming our way. And so we talked about adding that in for her. And she was not intentionally focusing on her goals, even within those expenses. It was all just about money coming out and not money that was also coming around to pay her. And so we prioritized her goals and allocated amounts to each of, the goals that she had, instead of just having like one generalized savings account, which, that is great when you are first getting started in organizing your finances. Maybe it's one account, but as you start to grow and build and have more money available to you, it's time to expand, right? And it's not saying that you have to have 20 accounts. That's a lot. But saying that, we want to, start to separate some things if that feels like it works for you. Because as I've always said, like, personal finance is really personal. And so if that works for you, then we start to separate a little bit, where your emergency savings is its own savings account. And then you have the vacation savings, you have the house savings, those sorts of things where they're both separated. And you know exactly where you are when it comes to those specific goals. And so that's something that we did. And then we also started to maximize, her accounts. So we started to choose like the accounts that would help her reach her goals faster based on the levels of saving. And I'll talk about the levels of saving in a future episode. So get excited for that. But what we did is, like, for some of those, short-term goals, we had the high yield savings account. And then there were some other goals that we, chose that would be best if we went more of the investing route. So then we could go back, at a later time, that money would grow further if we put it in that investment account. So that is something that we did to really, shift her perspective of budgeting from just like a list of bills to a roadmap for her future. And so now she feels good about her budget. And yes, she improved her budgeting skills, right? But it was even more than that. She saw what was possible and what she could even do now in her life, right? I think sometimes we can get stuck in almost like this savings cycle. We think that we need to keep saving constantly all the time in order to reach our goals, or in order to feel that sense of security. Now, that, of course, comes through different ways. That is where we're just endlessly saving, and we're not necessarily pausing to take a look and say, what is the money actually for? And so that is what we started to do. And that's what she started to see, where it's like, oh, I'm closer to this goal than I was giving myself credit for, because I wasn't looking, right? I was just kind of saving endlessly, instead of taking a look at the savings account and being like, okay, what am I using this for? And how can I adjust my budget to align with that and align with the goals that she really wanted to see and the experiences she wanted to have in her life. Now she's even closer to purchasing a house, and she also was saving ahead of time for a wedding, right? And she did get engaged. And so she is starting to be able to use that money for that purpose as well. I want to say that your budget can really be that roadmap for you, and it can be a holistic experience. It doesn't just have to be a cut and dry situation where it's just your expenses. It can be something that adds value to you and shows you how far you've come. It can be something that you can celebrate as you see the progress that you're making each time you save, each time you invest, each time you reach a goal or make a purchase that really excites you. And so our action step for today is that I want you to add your savings, investing, and other money goals to your budget. And don't forget all of your sources of income too. Okay. So make sure you create categories for those things and allocate money to it, just like you do with your other bills. So we're not just putting in, the savings account. We want to put how much we're saving. And if there's a ability to add the multiple categories for what you're saving for, we want to add that too. And additionally, the thing that I'd like to talk about too is fun money, right? So, something that's really supported a lot of my clients is separating their fun money from their bills checking account. And so they have opened up a separate checking account that's strictly for fun. So, some of those impulse purchases, some of, sporting events that you want to go to, concerts, whatever, right? And so all of that, they're, allocating a little bit of money towards that each month into the fun account. And that allows you to spend freely within that account. It's like, okay, I know that I have $500 in this fun account. Once that's gone, I gotta wait for it to be replenished. But until then, right, like I'm able to spend freely with that. That's like your no strings attached money that you can, just go for. And if you sang the In Sync song after I said no strings attached, bonus points for you. Okay. So I'm excited to share in the next couple of episodes my home buying story. And we also have our first guest of the podcast coming up. And so make sure you stay tuned on our next couple episodes. And remember that if you want some support around creating a budget that is more than just your list of expenses and your list of bills, it's something that's really there to be a roadmap for your future, then you'll want to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You can do so at the link in the show notes. And with that, I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.